All right. So that is the 10 minute speaking. Let's start it. Let's say you feel public speaking, right? So you're about to go out on stage and you feel anxiety. The default state of someone who doesn't want to have the experience is just what is one to you don't advance worry about that experience. I mean, the anxiety is kept just by mere thought of what you have to do. Then once you feel the butterflies, you work with them, right? You contrast your mind, contrast around it. Your conversation with yourself is unhappy one is like, what am I? This person just kind of like, I can see the people this all the time. They are relaxed. I'm unhappy. You know, where am I? And you're automatically as I said, you're not saying it because your thought just come upon behind you as fast as they can. And they seem to be you try to identify with each thought that emerge in consciousness. And most people live their lives are taught there's no alternative. There's like a rule book for how to operate a human mind, right? There's no place in the normal education where we're always indicated that there's an alternative here, and so we get to kind of stumble out into adulthood, more or less assuming that we have we're always on the mind, so we have, and that really there's a what only thing we can do to really operate a framework is to just add new content. You can read books, you can develop interest, but there's nothing that the root of our emotional cognitive life that can change. If you're feeling anxiety, it actually a place in which you can just feel it, right? And be actually indifferent to it or anything else. You could be feeling, I mean, just notice that's there with an unpleasant decision. But first, notice the anxiety isn't even that unpleasant, it's so close to excitement and its actual physiology. It's really the difference between excitement and anxiety is more or less just reframing is just orienting yourself. If you felt these these tingles and if suddenly underwrite respond right before you're about to go on a roller coaster. That's probably why you're going on this roller coaster you like experience. That's the fact that you feel that way. We're about to have an interview. You're about to walk on a stage that's terrible, right? So just going back and realizing the power of farming is again is this skill that is fairly it's a quick one, but no, after a learning and see the secret sound. Most of what people care about can be thought of as a skill. I mean, webbing is a skill, not suffering unnecessarily is a skill. Noticing your emotional life and regulating negative emotion is a skill. The moment we begin practicing mindfulness, we just learning to pay close attention to the nature of your experience, adding anything to this experience, just noticing that we like to be moment to moment. But the way that is not reactive, you're not grasping at lesson or pushing on lesson, but you're just that is a story of telling yourself a story you're thinking, and you can either become more and more mindful of what that and interrupt that more and more. You can reframe it continually and tell yourself a bit story, but you can actually just engineer. You can change the code that you're running moment to moment. So sort of use a cognitive imagination where you think of other bad things that haven't happened to you, right? So you just you're stuck in traffic, traveling to a job that you don't like, and you're frustrated, and you can think of all the things that could happen to you, right? That haven't, and if any of them happen to you, you could see that your prayers answered. Is you could just return to this moment, and you could be the guy who today is going to find out that you've got 2 months to live, right? And how the next 2 months is spent just unwinding your world affairs, right? You're not a guy, right? That hasn't happened to you yet. That's just more of thinking, but can have a profound effect. You can reframe your experience in a way that doesn't necessarily change anything material about your circumstance. And you can let it light in. And there's many techniques that are just a part of evoking useful concepts skillfully. So picture that you're in an airplane and you begin to bounce, and even those birds or are you repeatedly afraid to fly, give you anxious, insignificant turbulence. Now, what do we feel anxious? As a thought that the turbulence might be dangerous, right? That makes it more likely the crash. And of course, truly, significant turbulence can cause a plane to crash. But this is, as we know from this the plane crashes, it's a very, very rare thing. So now, unless you're in that rare and horrible experience of being actually thrown around recovering so as to get injured, it's really likely bouncing. It's not physically painful, right? You're not being harmed by this sensation. And in another context, to subject yourself to the more violent bouncing and not be worried about whether you might go into a broader movement spark, which exerts greater force on you bodily. And you do it because you're seeking the experience out. And the airplane is totally gonna welcome to you. But if you just take the cross sensations, you know your problem. It's what they pretend. It's your interpretation of them that worries you. There are at least two more levels that which you can deal with this. The first is to think conceptually about the nature of the problem or about what you fear. Is it rational to worry that your plane will crash if you're experiencing turbulence? No, it's only isn't like likelihood of dying in a plane crash a minuscule. Over the course of your journey, you begin to worry as you leave the airport and get in the Uber or a taxi and drive yourself home on your own car. So if you understand that the very moment in the plane is in fact safer than many moments you spend on a crowd, certainly safer than when you are walking as a pedestrian, fixated on your smartphone and stepping into the crosswalk. That's when your adrenaline should surge. Those are the moments where the sweat should begin beating off on your forehead. Swinging balloon is being to bounce. It is in fact unreasonable to worry that the bouncing means much of anything. If you understand that the actually can have an effect, then you can become willing to just experience the raw sensation of tolerance, and then you can cease to interpret the experience as a sign of actual danger. The other level you can address this, and they are totally compatible moves. I recommend one of them is become mindful of the feeling anxiety itself. What is that, and what does it mean? Well, it's just sensation. It's just a pattern of energy in your body, and it actually doesn't mean anything at the level of raw sensation. You might have thought about it, and very much of your thinking in your moments is purpose to figure out how not to feel it that way. Another day course, but you step out of your personal thoughts and just become willing to feel the raw sensation of anxiety. Actually, just surrender your resistance to it. Just feel it as energy. It can lose its meaning. It can become very difficult to distinguish from what another framing would be a positive experience like excitement. How do you know the difference between being anxious or anything about to happen and being excited? For the most part, it is the thoughts to thinking, where you're feeling that arousal as a cognitive, conceptual all day on top of the strong feeling. You can constantly reframe things, or you can step out of it altogether and just feel the raw energy of this experience. And when you do that, anxiety can be like any other experience that has no meaning for you as a person really doesn't say anything about you. So let's say you have a rash on your elbow and it's itching. Okay, that doesn't say anything much deep about you as a person. That has no physiological implications. It's maybe maybe extraordinary embarrassing, but it doesn't reach into your sense of who you are. The deepest way to respond to anxiety. And again, I'm not saying that there is no case in which drugs are valuable or even necessary. There certainly will be, but for anxiety in its more ordinary range, the way to respond to it is to become willing to feel it, to cease to interpret it as important and to function in the midst of it. And it will pass. Anxiety rises and falls like any other emotion, and if you're not continually thinking the thoughts that make you anxious, actually can't stay around very long. This is true for the unpleasant emotions like anger and sadness, and they are continually resurrected by our thoughts, and we're spending most of our time thinking without knowing that we're thinking. So mindfulness in particular is a very good antidote to this problem. But the trick is you can't apply it as an antidote. You can't be mindful of anxiety so that it will go away. Become willing to feel it, just let it burn bright in you, and discover that it doesn't matter. It simply comes and goes, and you can functional. Okay, so that is the end of this 10 minute speaking. See you in the 30 minute speaking and the 20 minute speaking. Also, I just skip three 30 minute speaking and three French speaking. But I think that I'm gonna just do it later. I believe so. I believe that I can do that because I have time, right? All right. So bye guys for now.